You're listening to the Manning Up on Real Estate podcast with your host, Cameron Manning. We bring you the industry experts each episode who will help you man up on your real estate career. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Manning Up on Real Estate podcast. I am your host, Cameron Manning, and I am excited today because I have somebody who I've been getting to know for the last, I want to say almost 7 months now. Again, you're hearing a theme with these podcasts. It's been through the Clubhouse app. These are amazing agents that I've been connecting with all across Canada, the US, and even internationally. And I'm excited to have this person on the podcast because I think she just truly does bring a ton of value in any situation that she's been in. Now, my guest, she's been helping buyers and sellers now in the Montreal market since about 2005. She's got a background in finance and marketing, and she actually left the corporate world to pursue a career in real estate back when her children were very young. And honestly, she's never looked back. She's got a Bachelor of Commerce degree specializing in marketing, which has helped her to become an expert working with her sellers and her buyers. And in fact, she actually has a really excellent blog and writes a ton of articles offering tips on buying, selling, and she's actually been selected as being part of the top 50 Canadian real estate blogs multiple times. Her blogs have garnered attention when she's been interviewed on La Presse, the Montreal Gazette, and even CTV News International. CTV News National. So I highly recommend you guys sit down, buckle in, because you guys are in for a treat. We have today with me Monique Assouline. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Cameron. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I'm super excited to have you here. As I mentioned, we've been getting to know each other now for several months through the Clubhouse app, but I want to go a little deeper today. I want to get to know you on more of that level of going. You came from a corporate background here, so maybe you can tell us your story about what led you to getting into the more entrepreneurial side, getting out of that corporate world. So I'm always curious why people make that jump to be an entrepreneur.
Okay, so I started my business, I guess my career, working in the banking industry and also the finance industry. So I started at the bottom of the scale when I was in university, and then I graduated to the next level and the next level and the next level, and I kept winning sales competition after sales competition, right? So you get promoted, but the pay doesn't get promoted. So your title kept changing, but the pay wasn't the same. And I quickly realized, and I hate to say this publicly, but men who were in the same position as me were making a lot more than what I was making, even though we started at the same level, and right. I was the one who won the competitions. And I was at a point in my life where, okay, I'm about to get married. I'm going to want to buy a house. And it just didn't make sense for me anymore to do the 9-to-5 thing. I was in it for quite a while. And then I just was like, it's time to make the switch.
Time to make the switch then. And what attracted you to the real estate industry then? Why would you go from finance to 100% commission? You are 100% on your own, and real estate's one of the toughest industries out there. So what attracted you to real estate?
Right. So right before real estate, I was actually a project manager for a national company, and we would send out what we call shoppers all across Canada to gather data for us. And I would prepare reports for these huge corporations. And I used to work about 100 hours a week.
Oh my God.
And I remember, and I already had just gotten my license, and I was just afraid to let go of the paycheck, to dive into full commission. My kids were really young, and yes, I'm married, but still, my kids are expensive. And so
yeah. As most are now.
Yeah. And I remember being on vacation with my husband and my kids. We were in Florida, and I was glued to my computer because of the job that I had. And they were all at the beach, and I was still in front of my computer. And then I tried to raise my hand, and my arm wouldn't go up. I was so glued to my computer that I got stuck. And I realized, okay, that's it. I need to stop because it's ridiculous. And if I can invest as much time in my own business as I'm investing in somebody else's business, it has to work well, right? So I told everybody around me what I was going to do. Everybody said, you shouldn't do it. And I was like, I'm going to die if I don't do it. I'm literally going to die. I can't raise my hand. And so I quit. And then I never looked back. And it was the best thing I've ever done.
Amazing. Now, let's go back a little bit into your first year in real estate, because I think that this is always an important piece to understand that the first year, the first 2 years even, are kind of the make or break for most agents. I don't know what it's like in Montreal, but in BC here, it's a 2-year renewal. So we see a lot of people who decide after 2 years, they're not renewing their license. So take us through your first couple of years. What you did to get really established, and what kind of led from there then?
Right. Okay. So at the beginning, which was 2005, 2006, there was not really any social media at all. It was all like go to the office, do some cold calls, do the ads. I was not, I don't want to use the word mentored, but nobody guided me. I didn't know what I was doing, right? And there was no like social media, no Instagram, no Facebook, no nothing. So I was just trying to get as much information as I could from my director and the people around me. And I quickly realized that, I need to speak to literally everybody that I know. And it was very shy and introverted. And what I ended up doing was joining all these networking groups, Young Chamber of Commerce. I was going to every single event with my pack of cards, business cards. I was so shy, nobody wanted to come with me. But, the people who go there are used to it, right? So they come up to you, and pretty soon I was super comfortable with it. And I was the one co-chairing the events. So I think that's what really helped me propel, just being out there and speaking to everybody and not selling, right? Just getting to know people.
Absolutely. And I think right now, and obviously we're going to touch because I do know you've got a very large following on Instagram. You're very prevalent on there. But I do think that a lot of agents, when they're getting started right now, they use social media as a crutch now, right? They have to build their social media presence, and they forget the fact that this is a relationship business and you have to go out there and meet people and create relationships, right?
Yes, Instagram has been great for me over the last few years. I don't care about numbers anymore. I used to care about how many likes I'm getting on a picture. I don't think I was providing value as much as I should have, like over the last few years. And I think that my Instagram really started taking off, I would say about 2 years ago. Even though I was like Insta famous, it wasn't generating business for me. It's only
Right.
when I started providing value that the buyers and the sellers started DMing me and asking me to work with me.
Right, absolutely. Now let's kind of like dive a little bit deeper, I guess, into the Instagram since we're talking about it now. So again, it's that adding value component. So what kinds of things do you do? What's your strategy? And everyone says that word strategy, and I know we've talked about this before. And some people are so regimented; they post at this specific time of the day. They have very curated content. They spend hours and hours and hours on it. What's your strategy on social media?
So I don't have a strategy. At
What
least
I was going for.
I don't think I have one. I'm not aware of it. All I know is that my pictures need to be nice. I don't care if it's a picture of me or of a property. It has to be nice. It has to be visually appealing. The videos have to be at least semi, attractive, but I need to provide some kind of valuable content. Not in every single post. I like to entertain at the same time, right? You have to be fun. You have to connect with your audience, and that's how you build a relationship. And I find that Instagram stories, when you talk to the people who are watching you, that's how they connect with you, and that's how they get to know you, and that's how I get most of my DMs. But you'll notice on my Instagram that I'll have some posts that are just like words or tips for buyers, tips for sellers. Even though they don't have a lot of likes, they have a lot of saves and a lot of shares. And that's more important to me than a post that's going to have like 300 likes just because it's my face. But
For
it's a
sure.
blend of everything.
For sure, because again, it goes back to there's the actual engagement metrics, and then there's vanity metrics.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are so focused on those vanity metrics. They're focused on I got so many likes on a post, but if you're not converting on that, if there's no actual people calling you from it, what was the point of it, right? Yeah, you got a lot of likes, but it's a very minimal. Like it's a rush for a second, and then it's gone. Right? That
Yeah,
next post is now in the wind. But something that
exactly.
got a lot of engagement on, you're now getting that ability. People might DM you. People might, they might share it with their friends that might DM you or anything. And even if they don't right away, they're starting to follow you. They're starting to watch you. And if you continue to engage in a way that or create content that's engaging for them, they will eventually reach out to you. It might even take a year. Real estate on Instagram is a long game, right?
Let me give you an example. So earlier this year, this guy reached out to me by email. He CC'd his girlfriend. He's like, "Hi, we're looking for a condo in Old Montreal. Can you help us?" Like, sure. So our first meeting, I asked him, "How did you find me? Like, did somebody refer you to me? What happened?" He's like, "No, we found you on Instagram 2 years ago. Two
There you
years
go.
ago. They don't even follow me. They saved my posts, and then when it was time, they contacted me." So you
There you
never know.
go. But that post was engaging enough or impactful enough that they're like, yeah, Monique is the agent that I want when I'm ready. So
Exactly.
And it comes down to a word that I've been having a lot of conversations with. We actually had Candice Morales, who was on, who's an Instagram coach. She's actually on one of the past episodes that we've interviewed. She's talking about consistency, right? And I think a lot of agents make the mistake that when they decide to utilize social media, they are posting for a week or two and expecting that they're going to get flooded with people calling them. But it is a long game, but you need to be not only committed for the long game, you need to be consistent. I think that's one of the things that I've noticed with you is that you're very consistent. Like I constantly see posts, almost every day, if not, every second day, but especially in your stories. And I want you to dive more into your stories because honestly, a lot of them are like, hey, I'm literally in my car just wanting to wish you an amazing day. So talk to us a little bit more about what you do with your stories and why you do it.
So I started stories before Instagram stories existed. It was called Snapchat stories. Yeah. And that's where most of us started. And that's why I think we're more comfortable on Instagram stories today, because we had already built our following on Snapchat and then Instagram shows up and I was like, no, I was so upset. I did not want to switch, but then I had to. So my first thing was, hey from the car. I don't know why I would always say, hey from the car. Or sometimes I do post like, hey from like up above, hey from Old Montreal, hey from whatever. So I was like, you know what, let's just stick with it. Hey from the car. And pretty soon people were messaging me, hey from the car. So it stuck and I kind of use it all the time. So it's my go-to thing and it's just a natural thing that I do. But I'll do behind the scene like stories, like, guys, this is what happened to me today, a little incident or whatever. And it helps people connect with me because I don't always like to show just the good stuff. But I did share something once and it got me in trouble. So I'm still very careful about what I share.
It's interesting. Now, I don't want to push too much, but can you give us a little hint on what that was too much that maybe people should worry about and watch out for?
No, it's honestly, it's the competition. So I did a picture of something that was like a random picture of downtown something. Right. And I posted a comment. It was a question. I often do quizzes. Would you prefer buying on the sunny side or on the northern side that doesn't have any sunlight, but you have a beautiful view, right? So I'll always do like questions like that. And that day, unfortunately, I don't know. I don't want to say too much.
Don't give what you can't away, but
somebody from another agency saw my post, and unfortunately, one of the listings that this person had was in a building that happened to be in my Instagram story, and like, oh la la, that's all I'm gonna say.
All right. Well, we won't push any further on that, but so that's the key thing. Yeah. Watch what you guys are doing on social media, but there's a level in which you can be super open and honest, but at the same time, sometimes there's a little bit of too much of a good thing, right? No, but I mean, your Instagram's definitely been something. Now, one thing I want to kind of like lean towards here is that obviously you're very heavily, in both the luxury market now as well, and you got a lot of international buyers that you're working with. So you've really expanded yourself. You're not just a Montreal agent. You've really built a network of agents across the world that are helping refer to you. You've got international buyers. So take us through that. So what led you to get kind of more towards the luxury market, and how did you grow that aspect of your business?
Yes, so about 5 years ago, a luxury brand moved to Montreal and they kind of recruited me to come and work at their agency. And I had never heard about them. And I thought it was a good opportunity to see, to join a company that's going from zero to hero, right? And it was an international brand. And I started developing my international network just based on the fact that agents from the same agency would connect through Instagram or through whatever, like Facebook. But at the same time, I was selling a lot of pre-construction, and pre-construction attracts a lot of international buyers. So the way that, I got lucky. I kind of advertised a specific project, and then the first person bought and then referred me to another person who was out of town and another one who was out of town. And so it spiraled for that specific building. But I'm still in touch with all the international agents that I've met virtually over the last, I guess, 5 years.
Right. Excellent. Now take us through it. Like working with an international buyer, obviously there's certain steps that need to be taken because they're not local, and every country has their own laws when dealing with people buying from overseas. So, and even within our country, you know, every province has their different rules too. You know, in my province, we have foreign buyers taxes, right? So if you're a foreign entity coming in, you have to pay that extra 20% on the purchase price. So take us through, what is it like taking an international buyer through that buying process in Montreal?
So most of the time, they're not in town. They're buying virtually. We do the FaceTime tour. We
Right.
make
So
sure
kind
that,
of take a phone and
yeah, we make sure that they're coming from a country that would allow the funds to be transferred to Canada, right? Because some countries you can't transfer the funds to Canada at all. Like there are banned countries,
right.
and usually they're cash buyers, right? They don't need a mortgage, or if they do need financing, they'll get it in their own country and then transfer the funds to the notary here.
Got it. Got it. And so it's a fairly easy, once if they're a cash buyer, it's a matter of just getting their records, doing the proper identification, and then having a notary or a lawyer, I guess, lawyer, notary. I don't know how you guys operate there, but somebody who's familiar with transacting people from far away and collecting that funds.
Mm-hmm. And what's very important as well is when these foreign buyers sell, they're taxed on different levels. So I hook them up, I connect them with special tax specialists, because when they sell, they don't get their money right away. They have to file specific documents with the with the Revenue Quebec and Canada in order to get their money back.
Right, right, absolutely. So that's something that, again, working with an international client like you do, you need to know all these nuances. The average agent wouldn't necessarily know this if they're working with all local buyers. They get that one foreign person. So what are some things that, in terms of the tax thing, let's dive a little bit deeper into that, because I think that's going to be beneficial. Knowing what the tax laws are, what does a foreign buyer need to know about when they liquidate their property from the tax perspective then?
Okay, so I'm not a tax specialist. I just want to say that.
Yeah.
Many factors. So there are specific forms. So let's say they buy it to rent it out. So they're getting income every month, every year. They technically should be filing a special report every year that goes to the government. And then finally, when they're ready to sell it, the same tax specialist that's handling their file will have special paperwork that they have to put in order to release the funds, because if not, the acting notary or lawyer has to withhold about 32 to 38% of the purchase price to make sure those documents are done. And the dangerous part about it is if the notary is not aware, or for some reason, it goes unseen or it slides through, the new buyer is on the hook, because the funds that would be like taxed is actually the condo or the house and not the individual.
I see. So again, really important if you're working with international buyers, you need to be surrounding yourself with and this goes in anything. We always recommend you have the right team of professionals around you. You have to have some base knowledge on this so you then can advise them to seek the right accounting advice and everything like that. Yeah, awesome. Good to know. Now, again, been seeing you working a lot in the luxury market too. So I know that a lot of agents, when I'm talking to them, the first thing is always that shiny object. Luxury is beautiful. Luxury is where it's at. And every agent right away, they get their license and I want to sell multi-million-dollar properties. Was that the case for you, or did you have to build up to that?
No, I totally built up to it. Also, our market was not fully luxury. We only had like a couple of luxury neighborhoods, not a couple, but a few. Today, those neighborhoods, you can't find anything under 2.5 million. And your average condo that was maybe 500,000 or 600,000 a few years ago are now $1 million. So, define luxury. What is luxury?
Yeah.
Every time somebody tells me, okay, I just got into the business, I only wanted to sell $1 million listings. Okay, but get familiar with the business, right?
Yeah.
You could definitely do it. I'm not saying you can't do it, but you need to get familiar with the business, and you definitely need to build your network.
Absolutely. And two, the quote unquote luxury client, they have a different expectation of the agents than I would say your average first time home buyer buying their first condo or something like that, because they're a lot of times they're business people, a lot of times they're established people, then they've got a large budget. They're not going to just expect, there's a different level of service, I would say, that's provided. Would you agree?
No, I disagree. I think that the same amount of service applies whether you're buying a $400,000 condo or buying a $3 million property.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's the same thing.
Right. Okay. Good to
Yeah.
know. Good to know. Excellent. Now, but the one thing that does come out, and I've seen it on your stuff, is that marketing when you've got a listing of that category, there's definitely a level up on the marketing. I mean, I think Lambo Mo came out. Tell us a little bit how that changes then.
Yes. Okay, so Clubhouse, very important. Luxury listings. Should I mention Sina Sadat?
Yeah, sure.
Look, ever since we started Clubhouse, which was what, January for me,
January, yeah.
and connected, and you have connected with the same people that I have all across, Canada, the US, the world. I feel like it's upped my game, even though I felt like my game was high. I was like, no. So I just got this amazing property, and I was like, how do I differentiate the marketing for this one? Lamborghini Montreal was amazing. And so we got one of their cars, and we did a whole video thing. I mean, I don't think that was my highest rated video that I've done so far. Has it generated a buyer? Not yet. It's generated a lot of questions about the property, about even the car, and things like that. But I just wanted it to be completely different than what we're used to here.
I think that's excellent too, because I do believe that same thing with Clubhouse is definitely increased our level of marketing as well, because we see what other people are doing. And right now there's so much, there's an attack on realtors, internationally, right? Between like different companies like Zillow and everything else like that. You constantly hear we're phasing out realtors and all these things. So you do need to be leveling up your game to be relevant out there. And I would say we've been doing the same thing. We've hired a videographer now, and we're doing all these walkthrough videos on every listing now, right? Whether it's condo to a big house, because again, it's how do we differentiate ourselves? And the same thing is too, and I'm assuming it's happening in Montreal, when the markets get really, really hot like this, everyone tries to become a realtor because they think it's easy money. So, you do have to stand out. And I think that you're doing a great job on that. Again, I hear people on Clubhouse that are from Montreal, and they're like, oh, Monique's in the room. I'm so excited. Like, I'm a big fan, right? I've definitely heard it. So, you've definitely made a name for yourself out there, which is excellent. So one of the things I wanted to kind of talk about too, because you've made a bit of a name for yourself, and I want to kind of go on a different side here. You are very heavily involved in a lot of different aspects of the politics of real estate. In fact, you were a politician, correct?
I could I say that again?
I was saying, at one point you were a politician, right?
No, okay. So I ran in municipal politics
Okay.
in 2017, and the next elections are actually this fall. And I had announced that I would be running again this fall, but I changed my mind.
Right. But you've been involved as well from the realtor perspective on the what's the word I'm looking for, like the politics side of real estate as well, right? So you've been involved in like councils and things like that. I've heard you kind of stand up for realtors out there.
I was sitting on the technological committee of realtor.ca, and now I'm on the marketing committee of realtor.ca as well. Do I stand up? I'm not on any committee, but I'm definitely one person that anybody like realtors reach out to whenever they need help. It's always confidential, and I can always guide them, and I know the law inside out. So yeah, I'm definitely somebody that people reach out to privately and confidentially for help.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And one thing we're going to dive into then too is obviously the big thing that's really drove all of us together is the Clubhouse app, right? This is something that is definitely, I would say, expanded almost all of our networks, our businesses, everything like that. So first of all, how did you hear about Clubhouse, and why did you join?
My daughter, I think it was my daughter. She's like, oh, there's this new app called Clubhouse. I'm like, what is that? And I needed an invitation, and I didn't know anybody on it because, right, it was by invite only.
No.
So I don't even know how she found out about it. Like she's in the scene, like she helps a lot of like stuff online and everything. And so I registered, and then a day later, one of my friends who was already on it, who I didn't know, accepted me. Like there's a way to get accepted. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? I don't know what I'm doing here. What's going on? But slowly, I mean, it's spiraled out of control. We were really, I think, at first 5 people in rooms, and then 10 people in rooms, and then like hundreds of people. So it was really cool. Really, really cool.
Absolutely. And again, it's built a network now of agents that you wouldn't necessarily have met or been connected with. You had your agents connections from past brokerages, through other networks you've done. I know you take a lot of trips down to Florida, so I'm sure you're always getting in touch with Florida real estate and things like that. But this has really been a game changer, in my opinion, for being able to expand your networks. And you've been, like me, I would assume, kind of hooked on the app for quite a while, right? We went down some several rabbit holes, I would say, where we're on that thing hours a day. But at the same time, there's been some amazing rooms that have happened. What are some of the most memorable conversations that you've had on the Clubhouse app?
Good question. At the beginning, I wasn't in the real estate rooms a lot. I was in Montreal rooms. We had created this whole Montreal network, and we would meet like religiously, and it was a specific format, and the moderators had to act a certain way, and we had to moderate the room a certain way, and we really built a little Montreal network, and then it disappeared. And while we were building that little Montreal network, I was slowly building the real estate one. I think one of the most, you know, impactful ones was one on the Monday where we were talking about women in real estate and how dangerous it is for us sometimes. And we always have to be watching our back because we never know. And some people get attacked. And I think that was the one that was the most, impactful for me.
Right, right. And we've definitely, because with this app, not only are we connecting on a professional level, we've also been connecting on a more personal level as well. We're actually creating relationships and friends on
Yeah.
the app too. And next thing you know, we've got our very professional rooms. And then we've got some fun ones where we're just literally hanging around, shooting the breeze, having fun. So, there's definitely that level of connection that's been created.
I think that your room, the one I think it's on a Tuesday, right? For first year real estate agents, that's one of the ones that really, like gives out so much valuable information for agents that are looking, even not only for new agents, because sometimes you'll have somebody in the field for like 10 years and they still don't know what they're doing.
That's
So
true.
it's a really good room to be in. Yeah. That one's a very valuable one.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Now, I'm kind of curious though, because obviously now the app's been established for a long time. We've all had Clubhouse burnout at some point, right? It happens. What do you see as the future with the app? Where do you see it going long term?
Listen, I'm going through the burnout right now with the app, but I'll be back probably later this week. I had to like shut it off. I was on it like nonstop. But it's always valuable information, right? So you don't want to miss out. But then
You get
it's
that
like
FOMO going on when you're not there and you see people in.
last week was crazy. I was like, delete, but I'll be back. Where do I see it going? I think it's an excellent tool. I think that, for those who are just starting to enter it, it might be a little bit trickier because, we all started maybe 7 months ago, but we've already built that network. So if people like invite people to come to our rooms to expand our network, be amazing. And to just keep doing those regular rooms, that show up every week. That's so good. I mean, I miss it, and I'm definitely going to come back probably in the next like 48 hours.
Yeah. I took my week off of Clubhouse too, and I was doing a little bit of traveling there, and you do need it because again, like anything, like any social network, you can become addicted for a while there. It was no different than when Instagram launches a new feature, we're always on it, and then TikTok, like, I went down that TikTok well, just late at night, just like like honestly, it's crazy what these apps can do. So it's definitely a good idea. I do recommend take that time off and regroup.
I was just going to say, what I like about Clubhouse as well is that so many of us have taken it offline, off of Clubhouse, which is really great. I like that.
Even just sitting here across from each other, chatting over Zoom right now. The coolest things is when you slowly get to do those Clubhouse quote unquote like meets, right? Where whether you see somebody at a restaurant, they're like, hey, I know you from Instagram because we connected on Clubhouse, to, I obviously did the trip out to Toronto here recently that people watching my Instagram, you can go see it. But meeting people for the first time that you've established such a connection with, and again, we see each other on Instagram, we've even done a couple Instagram lives and things like that, but we haven't actually met in person. So it's so surreal that you have these deep connections with people and then you actually get to meet in person. So
yeah, I love it.
I would say you've met some people now off of Clubhouse, I'm assuming, in Montreal. what was one of those times where you met someone, you're like, oh my God, it was just so natural. Tell us about it.
You know what? I haven't met one person from Clubhouse in Montreal.
Really? There's so
Yeah.
many people in Montreal that are on Clubhouse.
David Morel, for example,
Yeah.
we frequent the same like coffee shops. His office, I think, is in Old Montreal. I work in Old Montreal all the time, and we cross our paths. Like we've never actually met. We have to plan it.
We need to plan something so you can actually, because honestly, you and David being in the same city, you
I
guys
know.
are two of the people who are in the rooms with us all the time. That, you know what, if I have to, I'm gonna try to make that happen myself.
But if they're not realtors, I have met a few that are in Clubhouse but they're not realtors and they live in Montreal.
Right. Well, it's still a Clubhouse meetup at that point, right?
Yeah. So
that's awesome. Okay, so obviously I do appreciate your time here today. We've had some great chats. I just want to give, what's one piece of advice that you can give to somebody who's either established in this business, is looking to like level up, or maybe a new agent? What's that one piece of advice that you had heard that's really impacted you in your business?
I think my number one advice is to follow your instinct and not to listen to people who are negative and trying to, make you not do stuff based on their own fears. Oftentimes we want to level up and we're not really sure how to do it. So we talk to people in our surroundings for advice, but they've never been in that situation. So it's the wrong advice. Find people that are in your field that could become either your mentor or somebody that you can call whenever you have a question. Those are the people you need to seek information out from.
Absolutely, absolutely. And do you find that you've got a lot of people who come to you now for mentorship now that you've been so established?
I've had people coming to me for a long time. I think it's just because of Instagram. Instagram has been really, really, it was amazing. I've met so many incredible people thanks to Instagram. It's unreal. Like I feel like I should write a book. And social media is awesome. I always say never underestimate the power of social media.
100%. Okay, and then there's one final question that I ask everyone. So if you've listened to the podcast, you might know it, but what's that one book that has been, again, so impactful in your career that you would say everyone in the real estate profession should pick that book up and read it?
Is it a secret? Okay, so I've read a few books. I've read quite a few books. The one I think that was the most impactful so far is the one I've been reading since the last year over and over. It's called Sales Ninja.
Sales Ninja. Okay, tell us about the book. Why has it been impactful, and why should someone read it?
Okay, so I am a big, huge fan of the law of attraction. I totally believe that if you visualize it, it'll happen. And this book blends the building of relationships with potential clients, with your sphere, and a mixture of affirmations and the law of attraction. So mix it all up. It's all in that book. It's all in that book. And it's so good. I mean, we already know what we need to do, but it's there in black and white.
And that goes back to coaching and everything too. Like we all, the information's out there. We know what we need to do, but sometimes we need that person or that book or something to say, here it is, do it, just go for it, you got it, right? It's that again, that visualization saying that you can do it. And I think that's really impactful. And I do see you talk about stuff like that all the time too. Like you're very encouraging, you're very positive when we're on Clubhouse. And I absolutely love that. And I do appreciate too, one thing you might not know about Monique is that when someone else is getting up there, and I'm gonna put you on the spot here a little bit, but when someone gets up and they start either bullshitting or saying something, Monique is not afraid to get up on stage and she stands up for everyone else. And so she'll go up, whether it's Clubhouse or anything else that I've seen, she'll go up and say, hey, listen, here's the other side of things. I don't agree with you. Even at one point, she said she didn't agree with me in this podcast, which is what I love, because she knows what she knows, and she's going to bring that other point of view over to it. So Monique, I always appreciate that. And I think that makes you a very powerful agent as well, because you have the ability to say, no, this is how it should be, or we need to change this thought process or anything like that. So as she said that, I'm like, you know what, that's something that I've always appreciated, that when you're in the room, you bring that other point of view, you let negativity stand in these rooms, and you try to bring it back around to something that's positive and pushes everyone forward. So that's just a little thing that I say I appreciate whenever you're in the room with me. So Selling Ninja, guys, if you guys are looking, guys, you can check it out. I'm a big fan of Audible. If you guys, it's not sponsored, but I love listening to books because we as agents, if we're, or whether you're an agent or you're an investor, if you're out and about, put it on your car, you can listen to it, and then you kind of get the best of both worlds. You're kind of what's the word, multitasking.
I
Sorry.
downloaded the book on Audible and I bought the book. That's how good it is.
I've actually done that a few times. I got several books that are on my Audible, and then I go back and then read sections and then do my notes and things like that. So highly recommend, guys, go check it out. Monique, I really appreciate you as always. I feel that I count you among one of my friends now that I've established with. And I do miss you on Clubhouse. Can't wait till you come back. And honestly, though, I appreciate you coming in to spend your time with me doing this podcast. I think we've got some great valuable information that the listeners have gotten between so many different, we talked about so many things between luxury real estate to mentorship to Instagram to Clubhouse. So we kind of covered a lot of different bases. I just want to move it over to you. Do you have any other closing statements for our listeners to encourage them? And hopefully we can, for lack of a better word, again, the name is Man Up on Real Estate, Manning Up on Real Estate, that they can actually level up in their game.
Listen, first of all, thank you so much, Cameron, for having me today. And the advice that I have is to definitely follow Cameron because he gives out so much valuable information. It's not even about me anymore. I count Cameron as a friend and a trusted colleague, and he literally knows everything about every aspect about real estate. So that's my advice. Follow Cameron.
Well, thank you so much, Monique. I really appreciate that. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you again so much for listening to this episode of the Manning Up on Real Estate podcast. As always, your feedback is always welcome. And if you're listening on Apple, we would love for you to give us a rating. Let us know what you think. And again, connect with us offline. Let us know what kind of guests you'd like to have on this podcast, what kind of other information you guys are looking for. We're here to serve you guys. This is your podcast to help you guys, again, man up on your real estate career. Monique, again, thank you so much. I truly appreciate you not only being on this podcast, again, as a human being, as an amazing agent, and someone who I consider also a bit of a mentor of mine now as well. And I look forward to continuing to connect with you. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you on the next episode.